What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Wager Alarm Friday night live stream. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me, of course, Craig Mish. It is time to get down and
What's
dirty
going on, everybody?
with the
Welcome
lines
in. It's
and
the
the
Wager
picks.
Alarm
We talked to you guys on Tuesday about games we were leaning towards, lines we were looking at. Well, here we are on Friday. We've got 7 picks to make here in the Golden Nugget contest. Well, we've already made them, and we've already submitted them. We've got our 5 picks for the Westgate Super Contest coming up as well. Craig, you want to start with the college games here that we took for the Golden Nugget?
Sure. And as a reminder for those of you who are interested, over at wageralarm.com, these tickets will be posted usually, I believe, before every game goes off on Saturday and Sunday. I know, Howard, you did a whole nice write-up on that last week, so you can catch those over at wageralarm.com if you guys are keeping score at home. 4-3 in the Golden Nugget contest last week, 3-2 in the Super Contest. We have thrown eggs at the Detroit Lions for costing us 1 win, but the rest of them we felt are pretty much earned, the wins and the losses. Although Nick Foles did get hurt very early on that game, but that was last week. This is this week, and yes, we have gone back to the well again with college football here. We've picked a total of 5 games? 5 games again in college, 2 games again in pro. Let's also say this before we start. A very rare occurrence happened this week in the NFL with the Super Contest, which is the lines, as most people know, on Wednesday and Wednesday night get locked for both contests, both the Super Contest and also the Golden Nugget Contest. So therefore, the news that came down on Thursday, where Sam Darnold was ruled out, was a significant change in the line that is current, but we kind of are going to take advantage this week of a very rare free roll, as we would call it, in the NFL. Now, we'll get into that game specifically and what the chances are that we could end up losing this game, but the bottom line is that we lock in lines again Wednesday and Thursday. They will change significantly by the time Saturday and Sunday come around, so let's dive right into it.
Let's do it. Let's start. I mean, you teased that so well. I almost want to dive right into it, but let's just let that tease marinate, and let's start with our college picks for the Golden Nugget. I'm just going to go down the sheet here, and we'll just kind of give our thoughts.
Sure.
As for the game. The first one that we're looking at here that we took, Kansas State. They are getting 7.5 points against Mississippi State. Talk to me your thoughts as far as this one goes.
Yep. Can't get 7.5 anymore in this one. The best you could get is 7. I would guess that's probably what you'll be able to get tomorrow as well. Mississippi State's quarterback left their last game hurt. He will play, I believe, in this game. These are 2 interesting teams here that I think are going in different directions. Mississippi State, they lost Dan Mullen, their head coach, a couple of years ago. He's now coaching the University of Florida Gators and doing a really good job there. So Mississippi State's still a little bit in transition. For many, many years, and Sells could probably correct me on this one, I think Bill Snyder coached Kansas State for 40 years or something insane like that, and he took like 1 or 2 years off in between, and then the program went down. He came back, it went back up, and then he finally, Howard, retired after last year. Let's also keep in mind that when a guy is coaching for 40 or 50 years, he's just kind of roaming the sidelines and doing some recruiting. He's not doing the heavy lifting. A lot of times it's the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and that indeed was the case with Kansas State. But they were losing out in the recruiting game, and so they went very young, and they ended up hiring a new head coach this year, Chris Kleiman, who was at South Dakota State, which was arguably the best FCS, not FBS, so a step down FCS team in all of college football. They went 13-0 last season. What have been the early results in teams that are in the FCS that have played against Kansas State this season? Well, the final score right now for the 2 games combined, Kansas State and their new head coach and this new wide-open offense they've played, again, against very poor talent in comparison, final 101-14. 101 points so far for Kansas State, 14 points for their opponents. So in this game, with a struggling offensive line and struggling defensive line for Mississippi State, I think the line looks a little bit too high here, and I love getting the 7.5, getting that extra half here to get us beyond that push and maybe even get the win. Clearly, in terms of talent, it's an SEC game, and Mississippi State is a quality opponent, but really their primary guy is a running back there. If this game is close enough, I think it ends up being a very ugly, By the way, 11 a.m. start tomorrow in Mississippi. Keep that in mind also. These two teams, usually when teams play early and they get an early start, it's usually sluggish. So we're hoping for that kind of sloppy, sluggish game. I think Kansas State does have a chance to win this game, but I do want to take the 7.5 points here. Start riding this new coach for the Wildcats. I kind of like what he's doing.
If memory serves, also, I hear that there is a former Mississippi State defensive assistant who is now with Kansas State as well. So
don't be giving out our secrets, Howard.
Oh, for crying out loud. All right. Next game here, Air Force plus 4.5 against Colorado. Now, listen, I like this game here. Oh, thank you very much. First of all, it's now 4 points. You're not getting the 4.5. So, again, a hook in our favor. Always nice to have. The bottom line is Colorado's coming off of this miraculous win against Nebraska last week. Very emotional win. I think they also they beat Colorado State to start off. Very emotional game there as well. Colorado is not a good team. They are far from a good team. They're actually a team that you and I talked about at one of our first live streams, talking about how bad the Buffaloes really are. So now you've got Air Force, a team that runs the triple option offense, which I don't even know if Colorado's ever seen that in the last decade or 2 decades there, but they are not going to be able to deal with the way that this offense runs out of Air Force. And listen, I get it. It's in Colorado, but where's the Air Force Academy? You tell us it's kind of like a home game for Air Force as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this one here. I think Colorado, 2 very emotional wins. They are very, very prone for a letdown game here, or even if they do eke out the win, 4.5 points for Air Force. Give me the Academy.
All right. I like the handicap there, and it does make sense. They're kind of playing that in their own backyard. Colorado's not going to see a lot of that triple option all season long. Very hard to prepare, and it would not be a huge disappointment for Colorado to lose, given the fact that they could have started the season 0-2 instead they're 2-0.
Exactly. Next game on the docket here, going with a little UCF, Central Florida. They're -8. Stanford coming all the way across the country here. They just lost one of their top offensive linemen to a season-ending injury. We like Central Florida, Jim. I called you Jim again. I'm sorry. It's the muscle memory. I can't help it.
My old co-host, you called me.
I did. I called you by your old co-host's name. I'm feeling dirty about that. I'm sorry.
All right, we'll get over it. Okay. So Stanford will get their quarterback back for this game. By the way, if you're trying to get UCF -8 right now, like we did, good luck, because it's up to 9.5. And the reason why is Darryl Mack, their starting quarterback, who got hurt in spring practice, looks like he's going to make his debut in this game. So Central Florida is going to use 3 different quarterbacks in this one. The Cardinal, they stopped the run well. Will they be able to stop UCF? I'm not really sure if they can. And this is, by the way, Stanford coming off an embarrassing loss against USC, who we're going to talk about here in a minute, and their backup quarterback, their 4th-string quarterback. So I do think that happens again this week, and I do like the pick. Stanford's got to travel all the way to Central Florida and play against a team that obviously knows that they're disrespected every single year by the people who vote in the polls, and this is actually an opportunity for them to play and play well against a team that's a fringe top 25 team. Remember, if Stanford beat USC, they'd be in the top 25 this week for sure. In fact, it would be the only top 25 matchup we have. This is the first week in maybe a decade that you don't have 2 teams in the top 25 playing against each other, which is why this college football week isn't as scintillating as it normally is. But the handicap does speak to UCF blowing out Stanford this week, and so I think that there's an opportunity for the Golden Knights to continue this run that they've had. And again, in the public perception eye, a close game is not good enough for them in terms of a win. They need to beat Stanford and beat Stanford handily, and that place is going to be absolutely rocking. Central Florida has their claim to being a national champion, even though they weren't. They have their claim to being the best team in Florida, even though some people would debate that, but this would go a long way toward that for sure. So we're going to take UCF -8.
All right. Well, you just teased that we were going to talk USC. Let's talk USC, because we're going the other way. We're taking the home team. We're looking at BYU. Getting 4 points here against USC. And, it sounds to me like you think USC just kind of blew their load last week in a fluke win against Stanford, and they are due for a big letdown here against Brigham Young.
Yeah, and really kind of strange things happening at South USC, excuse me, at the University of Southern California. Clay Helton, who is their head coach, is probably one of the main guys on the hot seat in terms of coaching this year, and came up with a monster win last week against Stanford. And the reason why is because their fourth string quarterback that played last week, Keaton Slovis, threw for 333 yards. I mean, he looked like Matt Leinart when he was at USC. He looked like Sam Darnold when he was at USC. And so the question that you have to ask yourself, is this real? Like, can he continue to do this? And I'm going to bet against that. So BYU right now is +4 in this game. The line is now 3.5. Also, some other controversy happened this week at USC as their AD, Lynn Swann, resigned. So not a great feeling around that program right now. And maybe last week was really Helton's kind of swan song for that team. I think there'll be some regression here, clearly, for the quarterback who had the best game of his life. BYU had that tough game in the opener when they played against Utah. Utah looks like a top 5 team in the country right now, so no problem with that. And then Tennessee went to Utah and lost to BYU also. So they beat a quality program there. They're playing at home. They usually do play well at home. I think USC can win this game by 1, maybe win by a field goal, but I think 4 points is too much for this one. And I think that there could be an upset on Saturday, and I want to lean toward BYU in this one, and that's one of our picks in the Golden Nugget this week. I think BYU gets another win.
All right. Well, listen, 4 picks in right now, college games, and I'm loving all 4 of them, to be perfectly honest. Maybe that's the kiss of death.
Until the game starts.
Until the game starts. I love them all.
And we hate the game starts. And we hate the picks.
All right. Last pick here in college, the 5th pick that we're going to take here for the Golden Nugget, Oklahoma State -14. We're giving up 2 touchdowns here, but it's Tulsa. Come on. Give me the history of these two.
Okay. So, these two teams play basically like every other year. And Oklahoma State looks like the old Oklahoma State teams that we've seen prior to last year. They kind of had a down year under Mike Gundy, which is rare. But this kid, who has the best name probably in all of college football, and you'll be drafting him in fantasy next year, Howard, his name is Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard is their running back. He's come out of nowhere. He's second in the country in rushing. And this is another reason why you really got to do your research sometimes with these games. So for people who don't know this, the Oklahoma State was just kind of a middling university. They're always the second fiddle to Oklahoma, of course, in Norman. And then all of a sudden, I want to say probably 20 years ago, this booster named T. Boone Pickens basically took this school and made it into a powerhouse, donated millions and millions and millions, maybe more than anyone's ever donated to a school. All of their workout places are called, I think the stadium is T. Boone Pickens Stadium. And he basically turned around the entire program and put them back on the map. They hired Mike Gundy. They paid him a lot of money to coach there. They started recruiting better. They started improving their facilities. And when you associate anybody with Oklahoma State, you associate it with T. Boone Pickens, who died this past. So
win it for T. Boone.
Our condolences to T. Boone Pickens. And this is the T. Boone Pickens win it for him game. I don't think there's any doubt. And I think that Oklahoma State is going to come out possessed in this game. Their quarterbacks look phenomenal. Spencer Sanders, 450 yards passing, 6 touchdowns. How many picks? None on the season. 47-17. I don't think Tulsa has a chance in this game. They got the emotional factor riding real high for OSU. And by the way, look at the past history between these two teams. The games usually are not close. So Tulsa probably a better team than they will show in this one. And I could see the game being close at the beginning, but I think Oklahoma State just runs away with this one late. So we will very rarely lay 2 touchdowns in any game in college or pro, but we're going to do it in this one at Tulsa. We're going to take OSU.
All right. 3 dogs, 2 favorites. 14 is the most we're laying here. I like it. Let's move on. Let's do our NFL picks that we used here for the Golden Nugget. And look at that. We just kind of passed on all the day games right off the bat. We'll give you our picks for the Westgate Super Contest because those are 5 pro picks. But for the Golden Nugget, we went right to the Sunday night game, right to Atlanta against Philadelphia.
Never done that. Yeah, we've never done that. In all of last year, we never our main games, I don't think ever were the prime. Well, we may have had a main primetime game, but never like the primary games that we've used have been these. But we have to do it this week. We have to do it. It's just there's no choice. You got to take your free win if you can. You got to.
Yeah, I mean it's a must here. Falcons were getting 1.5 here against the Eagles. The Eagles did nothing to impress me. Did they eventually clamp down on Washington's offense last week? Yeah, in the second half they sort of clamped down on them a little bit, but they looked very vulnerable. Very, very soft coverage for them. Very easy going in the middle of the field against Philadelphia. Now you're taking Atlanta, who got embarrassed in Minnesota, which was a stunning game to be, beyond belief. Matt Ryan did start to bring them back a little bit in the second half. Now you're talking about the home opener for the Falcons, home dog here against the Eagles. And I'm sorry, man, but I'm all in for the Falcons. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Devonta Freeman. These guys want and need this win more than anything, especially when a team like Carolina starts the season 0-2 in the division.
Yeah, I can't believe the Falcons are getting points in this one, and I don't even feel weird about it by saying the line is off and it's screwy. This is just simply one that I don't get at all. Now, the Falcons have burned us in the past, and they burned a lot of people with betting in the past, even in the Super Bowl, which I'll never forget a couple years ago against the Patriots. But you're telling me that the first game of the year at home for the Falcons on Sunday night against a team that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, they're going to come out flat and lose this game on Sunday? If so, they can get rid of their players and fire their coaches because they have to win this game. Sunday night, first game ever, that place is going to be berserk. The only game on Sunday night, I don't know. There isn't really a strong handicap other than playing all of those narratives into it. I just can't believe that they're getting home points. Now, if it was New England, sure. If it was Kansas City, yeah. There are a couple teams that I can make the case for going into Atlanta and doing that, but they're a really good home team. And I think they win this game on Sunday night against Philadelphia. So
I do too. So I'll take my 1.5. The line's at Philly -2 right now.
Yeah, it's going up. If you're going to bet it, you may be able to get your 3 by the time the game goes off on Sunday.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. That's overreaction here in the first.
Big overreaction to Atlanta. Big
huge,
overreaction.
Huge. Now the other game that we're going to, this is where we're taking our free square. This is the gimme right now.
Got to do it.
Yeah, the lines came out for the Golden Nugget and for the Westgate Super Contest on Wednesday. And it was the Cleveland Browns -2.5 against the Jets. And we looked at that line and we were like, okay, Cleveland -2.5 against the Jets. Intriguing. We'll take a look at it. We'll see what happens. Thursday, Sam Darnold, mono. Le'Veon Bell ends up getting an MRI. They're still claiming it's precautionary because they didn't find any structural damage, but that's not the point. They lost Quincy Enunwa for the year. They signed they traded for Demaryius Thomas, who I kind of suspect that he had mono and Belichick just sent him over to the Jets.
There you go, conspiracy theorist.
But that's a story for another time.
You know what? All of this stuff is all very nice and it's great information to give. But the bottom line is this: if you're getting 4 points on a game in any game in the NFL. You got to take the points, whatever it is. If it's the other way, if it was Mayfield out, we would take the Jets. If it's Darnold out, we will take the Browns. And so in the Super Contest and in the Gold, I don't think they released the Golden Nugget Contest consensus. But when the consensus comes out tomorrow night, the most pick game is going to be Cleveland. And it'll be 90% of the pool will end up taking Cleveland. And look, the Jets may win. It's possible. The Jets may lose by 1. It's certainly possible, but you can't overthink this thing. You can't. You got to take your 4 points and say we're getting more value on this game than than any game we had last year. And early on in the season this year, we're just lucky that line locked up at 2.5, so we'll take them. And anybody who bets it, you got to lay 6.5 right now, which is a big number to lay on the road. And I suspect this number will go up too.
Well, it probably will. So there you go, guys. Those are our picks here for the Golden Nugget. Again, to recap, college, Kansas State +7.5, Air Force +4.5, Central Florida -8, BYU +4, Oklahoma State -14. We're taking the Falcons with a 1.5. We're taking the Browns laying just 2.5. As Craig said, that line is now -6.5 at the moment and probably rising as well. So those are our picks here for the Golden Nugget. Before we get to the Westgate Super Contest, a little shout out here to our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. You guys love fantasy sports? Of course. So how come you're not playing daily fantasy on monkeyknifefight.com? It's the fastest growing daily fantasy site on the planet. At monkeyknifefight.com, you're playing against the house. No sharks, no confusing interface, and no advanced degree needed to have a snowball's chance of winning. And right now, for a limited time, get Fantasy Alarm NFL Playbook Pro package for free. That's right, free, when you sign up and deposit at Monkey Knife Fight today. Go to fantasyalarm.com/monkey to find out more and to change the way you play daily fantasy sports. Now, Westgate Super Contest, here we go. Again, went 3-2. Could have been 5-0. At the worst, it should have been 4-1. Screwed by Foles' injury.
Yep.
Screwed by the Lions. We've got some interesting picks here. Now, Atlanta and Cleveland, we're taking them both again. We're doubling down on those picks. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, if we like those picks so much, it worked out last week for us. Both picks in the NFL and the Super Contest. We got those two. We hit them both. And I think that if you go back and look at all of our live streams from last year, and this is really a good lesson, honestly, for people who bet too. This is a contest. The Super Contest is a contest. If you're going to bet on games, you should not be betting more than a couple of games a week. I mean, 3 should be really your maximum. You start betting 5 games in an NFL day. If you're having fun with it and you're going with a bunch of buddies to Vegas or Mississippi or New Jersey or West Virginia or Pennsylvania, have a great time. And it's just, discretionary income. I don't blame you. I mean, I went to Mississippi last year. I bet on probably more than 5 games. I did some parlays, and I was there for fun. It was like a little vacation.
Right.
But if you're really doing this and you're keeping a spreadsheet and you're trying to make money doing this, there's no way that you should be betting 5 NFL games in a day. And so if you go back and look at all of our Wager Alarm live streams last year, our season percentage was somewhere, I don't know, was it 55%, something like that, 56%?
57.2,
okay.
I think it finished up that.
So we were 57.2% for the season, which is phenomenal, and we were in the top 10% of everybody playing this in the country. But I guarantee you, if you go back and you look at our live streams and took the first 2 or 3 games that we picked out of those games,
right. And that was
we were way over 60%. And that's the kind of money that you want to make over the course of the whole season. Now, it could go the other way this year. We don't know. We're at 100% to start the season. So let's keep it going this week. We got the Browns and Falcons. We've made it clear that those are our 2 picks. And I understand that there are going to be people out there that are going, Howard, come on. I can't get the Browns right now at -2.5. And that's fair. And I understand that. It's not a bet. This is a contest. But certainly we've given you the Falcons, and we've said that those are our 2 favorites. So for this, these are our 2 favorites. But I think that we're also in concert for sure with our 3rd pick overall too. So you want to give that one out?
Pittsburgh Steelers, is that the one you're talking about? Pittsburgh
yes.
-4 against Seattle. The game is at home for Pittsburgh. We all know what Big Ben does at home versus what he does on the road. We also saw Andy Dalton and the Bengals throw the ball all over the place on Seattle. So for me, this is I'm not going to say it's a layup. It's easy peasy, but when you're talking about Big Ben, Juju Smith-Schuster, Vance McDonald, James Conner, all his weaponry there at home against Seattle, who their secondary is just nowhere near what it was with it was the Legion of Boom. To me, this one here, I love it. Pittsburgh -4, gimme all day.
Yeah, and again, the Steelers are a completely different team at home than they are on the road. You never want to overreact to 1 week, but this line is overreacting. Come on. This is a big overreaction to them losing to New England like that. Let's say, hypothetically, New England beats Pittsburgh by 10. This line is probably Pittsburgh by 5.5. The line that you lost 1.5 points just for
easily.
So bad.
Easily.
Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't be a touchdown favorite over Seattle, but they'd be significant. They'd be 5.5. This line, by the way, is 3.5 right now too. So if you bet that, you can online, you could buy it down to 3, and even in some teasers, you could tease it the other way, and you could make Seattle even a favorite in this one, which is crazy. But yeah, I think we definitely feel confidence wise very strong about those 3. And then the last two, of course, are a little bit different. We went back and forth a lot on the fifth one.
Yeah, we definitely went back and forth
on the fifth one. But just to give you an idea, before we get to here's the picks that we didn't use that Howard and I didn't really see eye to eye on, and we'll just kind of see how these play out, which is fine to mention. I don't think that you like Green Bay, but you did not like Minnesota. That was one of the ones I threw out there. Minnesota +3, right?
Yeah, you threw that out there. Listen, I like Minnesota, like offensively. I'm just not ready to fully commit yet.
Okay. That was the only one I think that I'll tell you just a couple other games that I kind of like a little bit. Right now you can get 8 points with the Raiders. So I like that a little bit more than I did maybe at the time that this contest was out. You're not getting a lot of value here with the Raiders only getting 7 points. Chiefs defense is not good, Howard. So, this could be a game where the Raiders end up covering. Raiders did burn us a bunch though last year. So, hard to go, down that well constantly with that. And that's about it. I don't think that we had any strong opinions on Houston.
I hated the majority of the spreads in this one here.
We're not laying 13 with Baltimore, even though we're not doing that.
And we're not laying 18.5. I mean, this one's now 19 points here for New England. I'm not touching that.
We're not doing that.
So let's focus on what we are going with.
Yeah. So this is the ugly pick of the week. There's no doubt about it. And then look, our ugly pick of the week last week lost because Jacksonville was a team that just looked like it was off it.
Let's go to our semi-ugly. Let's go to the better looking sister pick here in Cincinnati. Let's talk about that one. Okay. That one's a little better looking than the ugly.
Well,
pick.
I can tell you what I like about our last two picks. Here's what I'll tell you. That when the consensus, and even though the consensus did win those favorite picks last week, when the consensus comes out, I guarantee you that our two picks will be nowhere near the top in terms of the consensus picks. And I like that. I don't want to be what everybody else is doing. I want to be the opposite of that for two reasons. The first of all is that the consensus doesn't win a lot. And second of all, going contrarian is really the only way to win a contest like this, or to even finish. And we did that a lot last year, and we nailed a lot of those picks. So, look, it's interesting. I did do a little bit more of a deep dive on the Bengals, and this will be one of those things where we're going to find out this week if last week was legitimate, because I don't care who they're playing against. Out of the 30 teams, are there 30 or 32 in the 32. NFL? The 32 teams in the NFL, you could not go into the season guaranteeing the Bengals were better than anybody except maybe Miami. And that was it. You couldn't guarantee me that. You could say, yeah, they're probably better than Washington. Yeah, they could be better than the Giants. I mean, you could give me some examples, but you couldn't guarantee it. And after the way they looked last week, and maybe there is a significant deal with the coaching change. Maybe it is Zach Taylor is just a little McVay. I mean, maybe that's what's going to happen here. I can't go all the way in on that. I got to see this happen another week to be sure of it. But the 49ers did not look good last week, even though they beat Tampa. They got a couple pick sixes. That's the reason why they won that one. They got to travel cross country to play the Bengals. Look, Cincinnati at the end of the year could be 8-8 and even start off 2-0. I could see that playing out as well. But that was a significant surprise to see them go to Seattle and play as well as they did. So the line is now 1.5, but in this it is -2. So if the Bengals win by a field goal, we win, and that's what we will be hoping for on Sunday.
It's definitely what we're hoping for on Sunday. Listen, I have no faith in San Francisco's defense. They just did not look strong against a putrid Tampa offense. Last night's game notwithstanding, everybody knows what Tampa looked like in the opening game because everybody and their grandma was all in on Jameis Winston. So
yeah, and I think when the Super Contest comes out, this will be one of the least picked games. This is just not a game that anyone's going to tell you that they have a strong feeling on. I don't think. Now, I've been wrong before with this stuff, but I think that when you look at it, not a lot of people will side with either team in this one.
No, I don't think so either. And now the ugly one.
This is the ugliest of them all.
This is really ugly, and I'm curious as to your thought process because you definitely you like this a little bit more than I did. I don't even know how I feel about it now that I look at it, but we're taking Denver. Yeah, and we're getting 2.5 points.
Yeah, who would ever take Denver
against Chicago
this week, right? The Bears, this team that was so good last year. And only laying 2.5 on the road, the temptation has to be there to take the Bears. I think a lot of people will take them in the contest. And I'm not a Broncos fan, but the Denver Broncos over the last 6 years are the #1 team in the NFL in the first 2 weeks of the season playing at home. #1. Nobody better. And maybe the reason is because of altitude. Teams aren't ready. Teams aren't conditioned in that early part of the season. That's something that I've heard. It certainly could be a factor there as well. This is not really about personnel, honestly, in this one, Howard. And I will say this. Had the Bears played better at all against Green Bay, then I may feel a little bit differently about this one. But that line is just it's just sitting there at 2.5, and it hasn't gone to 3. It's still sitting there at 2.5. That tells me the Broncos are the winner in this game. And I think that there could be some heat on Matt Nagy after a very poor offensive performance in week 1. Remember, even though the Broncos fell flat in that game against the Raiders, they were within one possession again. A touchdown and a 2-point conversion would have got them right back in the game. And the game was in Oakland. And remember, Denver was a favorite last week in Oakland. So what changed so significantly, Howard, that Denver went from -3 in Oakland to getting 3 points against the Bears at home? The line is off here.
Well, let me ask you.
I think the Broncos win this game. I do. I think they win.
We always talk about, if there's like a massive like a quarterback injury, and that's something that'll move the line. How much of an effect do you think this is that Vic Fangio, who's been working as the defensive coordinator for the Bears for the last couple of seasons, is now the head coach in Denver? Does that have as much bearing on it?
It has to be. It has to be for sure. I think that's another great point that you bring up there. But more than anything, it's the early season success that the Broncos have at home that is more than a trend. I think it is a factor, and I think that if the game, we're going to have to hang in there, but if the game is close late and the altitude gets to the Bears, who were obviously never used to playing at altitude, let's be honest, how many times do the Bears even go to Denver? I should have looked that up. That would have been good research by me. I'm guessing they haven't been there in at least 5 years, maybe more, with a completely different personnel. So they're not used to this stuff. And it's our 5th pick. So it's the one that looks so ugly on paper that everyone's out there watching our stream going, oh my gosh, are you nuts? You could never take the Broncos. This is what betting is all about. This is how you win. You scour and you go, what is the ugliest game here on the board that looks like that we have no shot? And you'll be surprised more often than not that it comes out that it wins. And again, Bears could go in and spank Denver, and we can come back next week and go, oh, we're never taking the Broncos ever again. Or Denver wins and we go, man, like it didn't look like that was going to happen, and it did. So that will cap off our 5 picks, certainly. And don't get me wrong, there's uglier picks on the board. You take the Cardinals plus all those points. You take the Dolphins plus all those points. You could do that, but I don't see a ton of value in that. So I want a home dog there. I like that pick. And we did side with Pittsburgh, who was a favorite. We did side with Cleveland, who was a favorite. And so I always want to have 2 or 3 underdogs out of these 5. Having all favorites is almost never the way to go.
I gotcha. Well, we got them. We definitely got them. So here you go, guys. Again, to wrap up our Westgate Super Contest picks, Steelers -4, Bengals -2. Then we've got Broncos plus 2.5, Falcons plus 1.5, and then the Browns -2.5. Again, the Browns game there. That's you just got to do it. You just got to do it. Yeah,
no choice.
It is.
We have to do it. And you know what? There will be some people out there who have 2 entries in this thing, Howard, where they ponied up $7,000 or whatever it is. And you know what? In one of them they'll take the Browns, and in one of them they won't. And they'll cover themselves a little bit just in case that happens. But you and I are in this together for one contest, and in this one contest we will take those 4 extra points that we have been given, and we will hopefully just take our win.
All right, there you go. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Wager Alarm live stream. Again, I will have these tickets. As soon as these tickets come into me, I will have them posted over on Wager Alarm so that you can follow along and track our progress. And that's going to do it for us here tonight. From my man Craig Mish, my producer Matt Sells, I'm Howard Bender. This has been the Wager Alarm NFL Friday Night Ticket live stream. We'll catch you next time.